Rob Maaddi is joining us from the Associated Press. He was in Indianapolis all week, and Rob, you made it home pretty quick. How you doing today?
I'm good. I leave before the prospects start doing all their
Gymnastics
workouts and everything else. Right. I go for the coaches, for the GMs, for the agents, and then I'm not going to spend 9 days there or however long it takes. You can watch all those workouts and see all that stuff. But I still got to put together my first mock draft. That's coming up next week, man. So I love being able to just gauge. Like, you got these guys who are experts at mock drafts, and that's all they do, right? All year round. And I just dive into it for a month. And I like to gauge how well I do against them, because I think sometimes in life, if you tell somebody you're an expert, Josh, at something, and you tell them over and over and over again, people start to believe you. So I think we got to gauge some of the experts out there by the results, not by how much they tell you they're good at something.
Well, listen, considering how good you are at picking NFL games throughout the season, I don't blame you for wanting to take a shot in another arena of the NFL. You mentioned about leaving early. Let me ask you a question before we get to the main news. There were some teams that did not send coaches and GMs. Yeah. Okay, I know Jacksonville was one of them. I forget who some of the other teams were. What is the take around the NFL that is the combine becoming more of entertainment and less about actual work? Like, is that why some of these teams are not sending these guys?
McVay and the Rams haven't gone in for a few years. I don't think Kyle Shanahan was there. And I think some of the coaches from the McVay tree, because look, it's Liam Cohn, it's McVay, Shanahan. They all come from that same mindset and thought process where they feel like they get to evaluate the players individual. They participate in the interviews when they bring them in, right? The top 30 visits. So you've got that opportunity. Let the scouts and the people that you put in place handle Indy. Meanwhile, you've got other work that you can accomplish, other things that you got to work on, and just more valuable time spent. Now, some people, some coaches, those who do, and Andy Reid wasn't there, but he also had a little bit of a health situation that he was taking care of. But I think some of the coaches there they will tell you that, hey, we like to be hands-on. We like to be in the room. We want to get that opportunity. And then some of these other guys are starting to look like and feel that their time is better spent. The coaching staff's time is better spent somewhere else. You've got the scouting staff. You've got the personnel staff. Let them narrow it down. And then when they bring in the guys, you still get your hands on them. You still get an opportunity to see them. And then maybe if they want to go to their pro day and see the individual workout. Because also, Josh, right, more and more of the top players from like the quarterback standpoint, they're not throwing at the combine. So you hope that maybe you get an opportunity to see some of that at the pro day. But really, they've put so much on tape. They've played so much over the past 3-4 years in college that you're evaluating a lot of it off that, and you let the people that you believe in who can handle some of the character and how their preparedness, their mental readiness to be able to go into a situation, be a number one pick, be a second round pick, be a day impact player or who's a day 2 starter, something like that. You let those guys handle it. So I think the trend is you might see it continue to rise. I have a feeling like over the course of the next few years, you might see fewer head coaches actually go to the combine. And then there are those who just go because they want to do they go speak to the media that first day, they handle that, and they're out.
Speaking of people who are coming and going, Rob, I got to ask you about, obviously, Howie Roseman. He made about 20 media hits this week. It was getting to the point where I kept having to explain to people. I was like, he said that on another show. It's not news. Like he basically was rinsing and repeating his answers just in different ways in every interview. To which I have to get your perspective. What is your take on this whole AJ Brown stuff? Because on one hand, Howie's like, we're not in the business of getting rid of great players. But then in the same sentence, they'd be like, but we got to take calls from everybody. So, it's not like Howie is closed for business, but he's not actively trying to trade him, which I think is a very fair position, right? But to me, I look around the free agent market, outside of Mike Evans, there's not a great receiver on the free agent market. So if you're Buffalo, if you're the Patriots, if you're some of these teams, you might have to strongly consider, do I want to draft a wide receiver? Do I want to overpay for Christian Kirk? Or do I want to trade for A.J. Brown?
And I think that he certainly is going to be available to the teams that inquire, and the Eagles are handling it from that standpoint of, we're not actively shopping. They're not calling teams trying to give A.J. Brown away because he's a good football player. He's an excellent player. They've won a Super Bowl with A.J. They went to another Super Bowl with A.J. They've had tremendous amount of success with him being part of this offense. But sometimes relationships reach a point where it's best for you just mutually part, and you're better off going in another direction. This could be headed there. Although the Eagles aren't saying it, AJ has said this offseason that he wants to be here, but sometimes the conversations that are being said, what people are saying publicly and the narrative that they're putting out there doesn't necessarily go with what's happening behind the scenes. I think if the Eagles get an offer that they feel is going to help them for this season and beyond, they're going to take it. And I think that this relationship has reached a point where I don't think it's deteriorated to where he's got to go, where they have to make a move, where they have to accept less than what they consider to be value for A.J. Brown. But let's look at it from, he's the 29-year-old receiver. He's going to be 29, I believe, in June. He was drafted in the second round. He's had tremendous success. But also there have been times where you look at AJ and you look at some of the things. Is he always going all out, max effort on every play? Is he blocking when he has to? And sometimes that's not always the case. I think you could say that. You could point out a lot of wide receivers too and say that about it. It's the nature of the position. Everybody wants the football. I've never heard Mike Evans complain when he doesn't get that. And we could talk about Mike a little bit later in this conversation. I think what the Eagles are going to do with AJ is see what teams are willing to offer. If they can get a 2 and a 3 for AJ Brown, I think they make it. If they get a 2 and a 4 that might be conditional, moves up to a 3 or something like that, swap picks also as well. Howie has a knack for including other players in trades or getting someone along with some draft capital. So he's very creative and I think very willing to engage teams. And there's going to be interest. You heard this week Mike Vrabel. I thought it was a little bit unfair for those who wanted to characterize it as Mike Vrabel's tampering, because he was asked a direct question about A.J. Brown, the nature of their relationship, and he answered it honestly. He could have just said, hey, I can't talk about another team's player. But he coached A.J. They had what was at times a tumultuous relationship that's developed into more of a coach mentor to a player. Said he's proud of him, proud of the person he's become, the father that he is, that they have text conversations all the time, good times, bad times. I think that's normal when you have a coach-player relationship, and even if you're not on the same team, that still can continue down the road. So I wouldn't think that Mike Vrabel's done anything out of the ordinary here of that. And to me, that you look at the Patriots, and they're certainly a team that should be interested in A.J. Brown. It's a natural fit. He's talked about, and other people around him have said how he grew up a Patriots fan. You see how excited he gets when he sees Tom Brady anytime he's doing a Fox game. So I think that's a natural fit. What's the price tag going to be, and is New England willing to pay for it? So if you ask me now, Josh, if you're asking me right now if A.J. Brown's going to be on the Eagles come training camp, I would lean more so towards not than he is.
Rob, the team with the first overall pick, the Vegas Raiders, they're kind of in an interesting spot here. One of the best defensive players in the league, Max Crosby, saying he never wants to play another snap for them again. Their front office saying, we're not trading him. I've honestly thrown out the idea here on the show saying they could use a number one receiver with, bringing in Mendoza, maybe A.J. Brown for Crosby, throw some picks around. However that would work. But what's the vibe out there in Vegas with the Crosby situation, even if it's not, coming to Philly? But are they looking to possibly move off from him?
Alex, it's similar to what Howie and the Eagles are dealing with A.J. Brown. We love having great players on the team. And John Spytek was asked about Max Crosby on, I forget the days, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day it was, like 5 or 6 different times. And his first 5 or 6 answers were like, he's a great player. We want to have him on a team. We have a good relationship. He's coming back, all that. Finally, I think it was like the last question of the news conference was, so would you then consider Max Crosby untradeable? Like, is he an untouchable player? And he said, no, we're willing to listen to anything. So it tells you right there that no matter what they're saying, no, we're not looking to trade the guy. He's a great player. We want to have him. We're past whatever happened. Oh, but yeah, if you come in and make us an offer, we're certainly going to listen. You're the Las Vegas Raiders. At this point, you haven't won a darn thing with Max Crosby. You're not 1 year away. This isn't a team that can draft Mendoza right now and compete in a Super Bowl in 2026. I think they're going to be willing to listen to what they can get for Max Crosby. If they can get anything remotely close to what Micah Parsons yielded for down, I don't think they're on that same level to where you can get 2 1s for Max Crosby, but you should be able to get a 1 in something else. How you're looking at it is intriguing to me. A.J. Brown stepping in there as a wide receiver 1 for a young quarterback. I don't know how much he would enjoy playing on a team that doesn't have a chance to win, but he certainly would be the number 1 target, and he certainly can rack up 130 catches or 120 if he stays healthy. I wouldn't dismiss that, man. I like the way you're thinking. I know Howie would think that way. I know if he's looking to, but you got to also look at the cap ramifications and what Max Crosby's situation is for the Raiders, AJ's for the Eagles, post June 1, all that stuff along the way.
Talking with Rob Maaddi for the Associated Press, joining us here on Hanging with Hennig. Josh Hennig, Alex Barnes, the 97.3 ESPN studio. Of course, Rob was in Indianapolis this week covering the league and all the pressers and everything. You mentioned about the salary cap going up, Rob. Is there a team that is going to benefit possibly from that $22 million bump up? Like, do you feel like there's a team in the league that, you know, when they saw that number of $301.2 million, looking around being like, oh, thank God we got some relief here?
There's a lot of teams. I think, Josh, I'm trying to look at the list now and see who some of the teams that have the most money. Instead, the list that came up to me is the salary cap escalation. So I don't have the teams in front. I got, this is remarkable. Look at the 1994 salary cap. $34,608,000. This is 1994. Go all the way to 2010. Remember the uncapped year, the year of the Dream Team? And that was uncapped. Then the next year, 2011, was 120. So you went from 34 to 120 in a 17-year span, and then all the way to 301 million in 32 years. That's insane. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that certainly can use that money. I know Jerry Jones invited the Cowboys local beat writers onto his bus for it was like he had a luxury bus in Indy. So I'm not, I guess he didn't want to travel. He doesn't travel by jet. Private jet. He had a luxury bus that he was hanging out on for a while. And they spoke for, and he said, he was just talking about how obviously the Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl in forever. And he wants to be as aggressive as possible. And I think franchising George Pickens is not going to preclude the Cowboys from wanting to do whatever they can to improve that team. They look around the NFC East. They see that the Eagles have been the dominant team in the division, and they now see that John Harbaugh's in New York. He's on the Giants. He's going to change that program around. I don't think there's anybody that I spoke to who doesn't believe that John Harbaugh's impact on the Giants isn't going to be immediate, and that they're going to be every year. There's the sleeper team that can go from bottom of the division to everybody's going to look at the Giants, and Jerry's aware of that. He's aware of his age. He knows that he doesn't have too many years down the road to go to be building for the future. He's got to win now. And he talked about mortgaging some of the future or trading some of the future to win now. So I think they're going to be as aggressive as possible, unlike what we've seen out of the Cowboys in past years. Now, if they're not, then Jerry's just he sold me again, because I'm believing it this time. I'm thinking that they're going to go all in. And if they remember, when was it? Was it last year or the year before? We're all in, and they didn't do a stinking thing.
Yep, last year. Yep.
Yeah, all in, didn't do anything. Now I believe it this time. So let's see if they can make things happen.
Rob, Josh and I have been both pretty vocal about this draft. Kind of feels like one of those where the quarterbacks might get a few GMs fired. Is there anybody like outside of Mendoza who's definitely going one? Is there anybody out there who could surprise some people, like maybe a Ty Simpson or someone like that who can actually be a mainstay in this league?
I think a lot of quarterbacks get a lot of coaches fired. I think, and a lot of coaches get themselves fired. That's just the nature of the business, guys. And there was this year, when was it? So Dable got fired in Jackson Dart's first year. Caleb Williams last year, and Eberflus, he got fired. Like, we continually see head coaches lose their job with a rookie quarterback, a first-round pick quarterback. And sometimes it's because they got that first-round pick quarterback because they were terrible for a few years, and they're getting one last opportunity to go out there and win. And if they don't win immediately, like Dable was already on the hot seat and couldn't turn things around. So I do think that's a possibility, whether it's Simpson, whether it's someone else. It's not a lot of people talking about this draft class. Forget just the quarterbacks, the entire draft class, that it's not as great as they had hoped or as they thought. But then there's some positions, edge rusher, that there's a lot of talent. You could see potentially 3 or 4 edge guys go in the top 6, 7 picks. And that makes a lot of sense, because you look at the way teams are winning now. You look at the last 2 Super Bowl champions with the Seahawks and the Eagles. How did they win those games? They dominated on the defensive side. They dominated on the line of scrimmage. So I think there's more talent there than there is anywhere else in the draft. And we'll see how that plays out. Once I get deep diving into my mock draft, I'll is there going to be a sleeper quarterback like Brock Purdy who gets picked in the 6th round and ends up becoming a franchise quarterback? I don't know that right now. I couldn't tell you if there's going to be anybody who.
I got one for you. I'll be that guy.
A Brock Purdy-ish type guy, Josh? Now
Yes.
I want to hear this. Go ahead.
Talon Green of Arkansas. That dude had a phenomenal season for an abomination of a coaching staff. They fired the head coach in the middle of the season, and he was still putting up numbers. That young man, if you give him to a Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell, one of those kind of coaches, that dude is going to be something.
What do you see in potentially Drew Aller? Is he getting drafted, or is he going to have to go to undrafted free agent route coming off that injury?
Oh, he's getting drafted just because everybody sees his talent, I think. To me, the guy who's not going to get drafted, I think, is Luke Altmaier.
It's going to be fun to see how that plays out. And, obviously quarterbacks get all the hype. Like, at this time last year, guys, we were talking about Shedeur being 1 or 2. This and not just in Indy, it was beyond Indy. It was at the NFL owners meetings in late March, 3 weeks ahead of the draft, where we were still talking about, is it Shedeur? Is it Cam Ward 1, 2? And he slips to the 5th round. So there's a lot of unpredictability. I don't think what these guys do at Indy or on their pro day should have that much of an impact on their draft stock, based on what you've seen them do on a football field under pressure, throw into in-game situations. So there's a lot that'll be thrown out there. There's a lot that'll be talked about. I think the Eagles are going to be in the market to take a quarterback, but probably not before day 3. I just don't think there. A lot of people talking about, like, oh, they drafted Jalen Hurts and there's a surprise pick in the 2nd round. They could do that again. I don't see that. I think Jalen Hurts is getting every opportunity to bounce back, and he didn't have a terrible year last year. There was a lot of issues with the offense and the system and the scheme, and you got Sean Mannion coming in and give him a chance to see if he can thrive, if he can flourish in that offense. So I think if we're looking at the Eagles and their quarterback possibilities, that's not going to happen before day 3.
I mean, a lot of drops last year, too. Don't forget about that. A lot of guys dropping balls are right in the breadbasket. Drew Aller might be a candidate for the Eagles. A guy coming off of an injury, third day pick, Sean Mannion. Let me get my hands on this guy, especially if, and I'm not trying to speak anything into existence, but I know on you, Rob, I've heard a lot of speculation that Tanner McKee might get traded this offseason because people are maybe not enamored with the quarterback. So, you know how it is, Rob. Somebody calls the Eagles, maybe the quarterback, they wanted it on day 2 of the draft, right? They're like, is Tanner McKee available? I'll give you a pick. And then the Eagles go get Aller, and then they got Aller and Sam Howell in camp next year.
Yeah, and having Sam Howell, I think, makes Tanner McKee a little bit more likely to be available if you're going to go that direction, if you're going to go that route. I don't know what would Tanner McKee get the Eagles in the draft? Better than a 5th or a 5th would be high. I don't know if you'd get higher than a 5th for Tanner McKee. So that could happen. I didn't watch a ton of Drew Aller. I was not what I saw out of him was not overly impressive.
You got a Penn State alumni sitting over here, so
I can take the reins on this one if you need, Rob. He's not that good. I'm sorry. He was supposed to be he was the guy who was supposed to take our program to higher heights than we'd ever seen.
Hear this, our program?
It is our program. But
hey, my wife went to Penn State, and we watched Drew Aller against Ohio State, and she sounded exactly like you, but I didn't give her much stock because she doesn't have your football acumen. But I'm going to go down and tell her right now that, hey, Alex agrees with you.
It was just you look at him, he looks like Josh Allen out there. There's no question about that. It was really Now, last year we had the heartbreaking loss to Notre Dame. He throws the interception, should have never even thrown the ball. He's always crumbled in the big Michigan, Ohio State. Now that's a Penn State thing to begin with. And then you had a guy who wouldn't really show up. But then last year, before the just absolute collapse that happened, when we were playing these FIUs, the teams that you should, when you look at this, you don't even put on because it's going to be 63-7 or something like that. It was a 1-possession game at halftime, and it was like a 24-14 finish. We were
he ain't lying, but I will say though,
one of those teams too, right? They lost to one of those. They were a 30-point favorite and lost to somebody, didn't they?
Well, that was to Northwest. That was when everything. That's
when Franklin got fired.
Yeah, that was just. But I'm saying we had the first 3 weeks of the year were dog teams. Those were the
Rob. They went
games.
0-for-6 in the first 6 weeks against the spread. They couldn't cover against Villanova and FIU. It was getting to a point where my stone cold lead pipe lock of the century of the week every week was pick against Penn State.
So I mean, if you want to see. I thought this last year with Quinn Ewers. I thought if you had Quinn Ewers, I wanted the Rams to draft Ewers so you could have a guy like Matthew Stafford just mentor this guy. Maybe the Rams do that with Aller now. I think Aller, he has all the tools. He has the size, the look, everything. Maybe he just has to be with a Matthew Stafford type of quarterback just to teach him, technique him a little bit, and then maybe down the line he's a great quarterback.
Hey, if you got the tools and you got that ability from a physical standpoint, you get with the right coaching. So it helps. We've seen that, right? Sometimes it helps. So you guys, and you said it, right? A lot of coaches out there feel like, hey, I can be the guy to bring this talent out of this kid, and they take on projects like that.
Keep that name in mind, Taylon Green.
I got you.
Keep in mind, Arkansas. That's the guy I think is going to surprise some people.
Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy too. I love it.
He's Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press, at Rob Maaddi on the X platform, at The Real Rob Maaddi on Instagram. Check out all of his coverage of the NFL at apnews.org. And he's doing this right here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, great stuff today. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you always. Keep up the great work.